Wilmot was the kind of town most people forgot. Tucked between nowhere and never was, its old brick buildings crumbled beneath decades of dust, and the once thriving Main Street had become a graveyard of shuttered stores and faded dreams. People said Wilmot had died quietly, just another casualty of progress and the highway bypass. Until the day Edward Beck returned. He arrived in a black SUV, windows tinted like a hearse. Now in his late 50s, Edward hadn't set foot in Wilmot for over 30 years. Not since he left after high school with nothing but a suitcase and a fury in his chest. Back then he'd been the poor kid, mocked, ignored, pitted. His father drank too much, his mother prayed too hard, and Edward had sworn never to come back. But life had other plans. Edward didn't just succeed, he dominated. Tech ventures, real estate, global holdings. His net worth climbed into the billions. And now, with more money than meaning, he returned to the town that once made him feel small. Except this time, Edward wasn't looking for peace. He came with a plan, to buy the town. Within weeks, he did just that. Storefront by storefront, property by property, Edward's investment firm, quietly named EB Enterprises, acquired everything. The diner, the hardware store, the post office, even the school, which was about to shut down for lack of funding. At first, the townspeople were hopeful. Maybe he was going to revitalize Wilmot. But Edward wasn't sentimental. He boarded up the old theater, demolished the library, and replaced Main Street with a gleaming glass tech campus that no locals were qualified to work at. Jobs disappeared. Families moved out. What was left of Wilmot began to rot beneath luxury buildings no one in town could afford. People muttered in coffee shops and gas stations. They remembered Edward, awkward, angry, ignorant. They realized this wasn't business. It was revenge. Then one winter, Edward stumbled into something he hadn't planned. He attended a town hall out of curiosity. Not to listen, just to watch. But something happened that night. A young woman named Grace stood up. She was maybe 25, worked 2 jobs, and ran the town's food pantry. She looked directly at Edward, not with anger, but disappointment. "You've got the money to build anything," she said. "But you're not building anything that matters. You're just winning a war no one else is fighting." The room fell silent. For a moment, Edward smirked. But then a strange thing happened. He looked around the room, at the faces, the weariness, the quiet hope that somehow clung to this forgotten town, and something cracked open in him. That night, he didn't sleep. Instead, he drove through Wilmot, past the house he grew up in, past the ball field where he once struck out with the bases loaded, past the diner that still used the same neon sign from 1972. He saw not just what Wilmot was, but what it could have been. What he could have been if someone had believed in him instead of mocking him. By dawn, Edward had made a decision. The next month, something shocking happened. Edward announced that EB Enterprises was restructuring. All town-owned properties were being donated back to local cooperatives. A fund of $50 million was established for small business grants, education, and community programs, with no strings attached. The tech campus? It would become a vocational school and co-working hub, offering training to locals free of charge. The town didn't trust it at first. But when new businesses began to bloom, when the old library was rebuilt with better books and brighter windows, when scholarships started flowing in, people began to believe again. Edward didn't hold a press conference. He didn't put his name on buildings. He simply began walking the streets like anyone else. Buying coffee. Asking questions. Listening. He even started volunteering at the food pantry with Grace, who never treated him like a billionaire, only like a man trying to fix what he broke. Years later, a journalist came to Wilmot to cover its transformation. The story made headlines. The billionaire who gave a town back to itself. When asked why he did it, Edward said only this: "I came back to bury a grudge. But I found my humanity instead." True power isn't about what you can take, it's about what you choose to give. Redemption begins not when you rewrite your past, but when you change someone else's future.